You are now watching Surveillance. Donate or subscribe for more sick twists.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. I know it's been a long time since I made a video. I've been getting crushed IRL by a ton of things, so sorry for that. But on the list of things that we're going to cover today is we got some new information about glyphs, specifically the Avenging Wrath glyph, which is going to be one of our best glyphs now that Hammer of Wrath has been fixed. We got some new info about the single target rotation and what priority you should be using thanks to my main man Swedge. And then later on we also will talk about Ulduar and the state of Ret right now and how we're going to be in phase 2. So let's get started. So if you guys have seen Swedge's video, some of you guys probably haven't, and that's okay. There will be a link in the description if you want to check it out. He makes his case why we're probably sleeping on the Avenging Wrath glyph. The Avenging Wrath glyph cuts our Hammer of Wrath cooldown in half to 3 seconds when you use wings during execute. Now, a lot of different factors go into whether or not this glyph is going to be best or not. It seems to be always best on single target fights, from what we can tell, even if you have to delay your wings because the fight is short enough that you only get one use of wings. And even if that ends up preventing you from stacking your wings with Bloodlust, it still seems to be better to do so to get that extra Hammer of Wrath damage, at least on a single target fight. Now on a Cleave fight it gets a lot more complicated, and you can find all the different variables in the deep dive. I've gone through all of them, and basically it just comes down to whether or not you think that delaying your wings will cost you more damage than you will gain from the extra Hammer of Wrath damage. And that's a bigger deal on Cleave because more of your damage on Cleave comes from your seal damage, so your auto attack damage is more important, and you lose more damage by delaying your wings and not using it with Bloodlust in a Cleave scenario. But this bigger loss can also be overcome if there is mobs in execute phase that are still alive that can be cleaved by the Hammer of Wrath, which now procs seals and thus will cleave with Seal of Command. And now for the Consecration versus Exorcism argument, Consecration does seem to be getting worse as we move into Ulduar, and the reason for this is because since we're not casting Holy Wrath anymore, Consecration does less for opening up our rotation and giving us more open GCDs. It benefits us less because we have one less spell in our artillery, and basically we have more open GCDs already, so the benefit is less. In that scenario, Exorcism looks to be getting a little bit better in Ulduar, even on like a mechanical boss. So then the last thing I have for you is like my chart. This chart was made by Randak, but it basically lines up with what I've been doing personally with the Avenging Wrath glyph. So it just tells you basically on each boss what we're using. Now at the bottom you can see there's a little bit of caveat. On Faerlina, if you're cleaving the followers, then you should replace Vengeance with Exorcism because you're going to be using Seal of Command. On Sartharian, if you're zerging the boss, you should use Seal of Vengeance instead of Avenging Wrath because you're not cleaving. That sort of thing. But otherwise, it basically lines up with everything that I do, so credit to Randak for the chart. I appreciate it, bud. And while none of the Cleave fights in Phase 1 are good for Avenging Wrath glyph, that might not be the case in Ulduar, and we might see Avenging Wrath glyph be useful on some Cleave fights. It mostly depends on if the fight is long enough so that you don't have to delay your initial wings if you're bloodlusting like on the pull. So our god Theory Crafter Swedge also put in some work using the new Priority Tool from Sulis, which there will also be a link for in the description. You can also find the link in Light Club. Basically, this tool allows you to go through all the different priorities and see which one is best for any different scenario that you can plug in. Now, there's a lot of like different variables that go into like what priority is best in any given scenario, and you can see the examples of some of these variables here. Now, what Swedge did is he opened up this tool, which looks like this, and he plugged in a bunch of different settings and tried to find like some general conclusions that we can draw about what single target prio is going to be the best on like an average basis, on like a consistent basis. So Swedge made a write-up here where he explains all of the data he gathered and makes his case for the prio that you see here, which is Judge, CS, DS, Consecrate, Exorcism, Holy Wrath, and then when you're in Execute phase, you do Hammer of Wrath, Judge, CS, Consecrate, Divine Storm, Exorcism, Holy Wrath. So you kind of flip DS and Consecrate there. And I've been using this prio, and it's been giving me great results. I also have been simming this prio, and the sim really likes these this specific set prio. I recommend everybody go into their WeakAura and change it to the following. So this is only for single target. Don't touch your Cleave settings. Change them to the numbers listed here, and they will match the priority that Swedge is recommending in his write-up. Now, if you go into your WeakAuras and you click on Sulis WeakAura and then hit custom options, that's where you'll find this. And that should give you a decent DPS boost on single target. Now, is this going to change in the future? You bet. But when it does, we'll get back to you guys and we'll update you on it. Okay, so next we have kind of a spicy topic. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this, but there was a blue post the other day. A couple weeks ago, a lot of people were on the forums complaining about how Ret just doesn't do very much DPS, which, you know, it's true. We are one of the worst classes right now on any single target boss, and even on Cleave fights where we should shine, we're not doing as well as we thought we would. Now, after a big post on the forums where me and a lot of other paladins made our thoughts known, Blizzard basically said, no, we're not going to buff you guys. Prot and Holy are like god tier specs, so Paladin as a class is in a decent place. And they didn't really address many of the points made in the forum posts. They kind of just ignored them, which is a little bit frustrating, but I understand that they're not going to make any changes because it kind of opens up Pandora's box, and pretty soon you're looking at a ton of different class balance changes and a ton of different people asking for the same sort of buffs. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this is a bad decision. I understand why they don't want to make any changes because it's just easier not to, and a lot of people don't really trust them to make good changes. But at the same time, I think this is a really bad decision for the health of the game. You've seen a lot of people already re-rolling, and a lot of guilds are starting to drop Ret Paladins going into Ulduar unless they really need that 3% damage buff because their mages have gone fire. And, you know, walking into Ulduar, we're losing 8% damage right out the gate. Meanwhile, the only class that was worse than us, which is Fury Warrior, is getting much, much better. And they're going to scale way past us throughout Ulduar. So we are going to be in a uniquely bad position in Ulduar. We're going to be the bottom DPS, and not by like a small margin. We're going to be pretty far below everybody else. And this is just, once again, it's due to the fact that we are balanced around set bonuses that we just don't have. And we got nerfed every patch throughout Wrath of the Lich King, and we're playing on the very last patch with all the nerfs. Now, which nerf specifically cost us most of our damage? I think it's just a combination of everything they did over... there's no specific nerf that overnight just, you know, took all of our damage away. It's not like that. It's more like just a gradual process where they slowly took damage away until we ended up being about middle of the pack with the tier 10 set bonus. And don't kid yourself. If you think we're going to be topping DPS meters when we get tier 10, you're kidding yourself. We're going to be good. We're going to be like top 6 maybe if you have Shadowmourne and Abomination in a Jar and all that good stuff and your set bonus. But we're not going to be the #1 DPS. Like, people expecting that are just, they're crazy. The set bonus will bring us up to middle of the pack. Based on the math that we are doing right now, it looks like it will bring us up to middle of the pack. And if you have stuff like Shadowmourne or Abomination in a Jar, that stuff will put you a little bit over middle of the pack, but you're still going to be behind rogues and DKs and probably mages, so warlocks, things like that. So at this point, I don't blame anybody for re-rolling and for just picking a different class, at least until TOC, when we start scaling better. And that is when we're going to start picking up, is TOC, for anybody wondering. Yes, we're going to suffer in Ulduar, but once we get that crit, that Righteous Vengeance crit set bonus from TOC, we're going to be doing much, much better. Probably bring us up to almost middle of the pack. So the state of Ret right now is not looking very good. I think Blizzard is making a mistake by not buffing us, but I also understand why they're not doing it. And at this point, I'm basically just raid logging. I've gotten kind of bored of playing Ret, and I'm kind of just raid logging at this point. So I see a lot of other people are also just kind of doing the same. Okay, so now with Ulduar rolling around the corner, we have it up on the PTR already. Everybody's seeing how hard it is. Everybody's getting really excited for the hard modes. Super hyped for that. So in the next week or two, I should have my Phase 2 gear tier list and Abyss video out, sometime in the next week. I just need to find a time when I can collaborate with Swedge and Terran and some of the other guys and just talk to them about what we're thinking for Abyss. But the way it's looking right now with the eye level jump, it's looking like all of the offset items are just going to be better than any set bonus, and 0 piece is going to be better than 2 piece, which is going to be better than 4 piece. 0 piece is going to be like really hard to get, but more is coming on that in the future, and I'll update you guys on my next video. It shouldn't be more than a week or two before it's out, so stay tuned for that. So our homie Thad found this set performing really well on the sim, so credit to Thad for finding this set, which is going to perform a lot better on Cleave and about the same, if not a little bit better on single target. But it's a little different than we expected, and it's a little different than we had previously thought. So credit to him for finding this. The set looks exactly like this. So you essentially replace your tier chest with chest guard of the Recluse. You replace your weapon with the Jawbone, which we've known is much better on Cleave. You replace your rings with Surge Needle Ring and Strong-Handed Ring, which you need to hit. And then you replace either the Malygos gloves with tier gloves, or you can also replace Leggings of the Honored with tier legs. Either one sims about pretty close to each other. I think using the Malygos gloves is a little bit better than using Leggings of the Honored, but they're pretty close, so you can use either one. It basically relies on you getting Chest Guard of the Recluse, which is pretty hard to get, but seems to be pretty comparable on single target, but like much, much, much better on Cleave. And then you're going to switch your trinket to Loatheb's Shadow. Any active trinket is better on Cleave, especially like if you have a Cleave scenario where on the pull you are bloodlusting and popping wings and cleaving. Now, Mark of Norgannon, Sphere, and Loatheb's are all great active trinkets. Mark is going to be the best, Sphere the second best, Loatheb's the third best. But the problem is that if you can't use the base stats, like the expertise on Mark or the hit on Sphere, then Loatheb's is going to be better because it has crit and you can benefit from it always. Now, because of this, in the Biz set, you're going to want to use Loatheb's Shadow for Cleave because you just cannot benefit from the hit or the expertise in the absolute Biz set. And this set is performing the best on Cleave on the sim. Now on single target, you can kind of modify this set and run something like this, which will perform about equal or very, very slightly better than what we currently have listed as Biz. So that's one thing that makes this set really nice, is that you can kind of use it on both single target and Cleave. Alright, well that pretty much wraps up everything that we need to cover for this video. My next video, once again, will be our Phase 2 Biz guide and gear tier list. Look forward to that in the coming weeks. Sorry again for this big gap in between my videos. I'm actually trying to prepare one of my family members for a big surgery that they have coming up after Christmas, so I don't have as much time to edit videos as I wish, and it's been a struggle financially, so I've had to work extra hours to kind of get by. I hope you guys understand, but I'm going to try my best to get the content out for you guys on time before Ulduar releases. So I appreciate all you guys watching the video and sticking with me this far. And if you guys want to support the channel, you can donate to my Patreon down below, or you can just come into the Discord and say hi and help us, you know, by contributing some data or by giving us your experiences playing Ret. So thanks again, guys, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Take care, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whatever, if that appeals to you. Thanks.
This show was brought to you by Light Club, where monkeys go to church.